Welcome everyone to Health Coach TV. I'm your host, Dr. Shauna Menard, and I am so excited to share with you an incredible guest we have today. You are absolutely going to love her. She is a lawyer turned health coach, and she is an expert in Crohn's and colitis. She's had personal experience with this. She has a global following, and we'll check in with where she's at. Sometimes I see her, she's in Paris, France, and sometimes she's in Greece. So we'll check in with where she is at today. And she does an incredible work. She's gotten herself into remission from Crohn's disease, so she knows a thing or two, and she's going to be sharing with us her secrets, her top tips, and I can't wait to have you meet the incredible Clio Stoidis. So Clio, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic to be here.
Awesome. So, and I know you have incredible credentials. I know you're a certified health coach. You've had extra certification in gut health. I know you've been interviewed on TV and about your area of expertise. So we are honored and pleased to have you here with us. But tell us just, briefly, what is it that you actually do now, Clio?
Right. So I help people get their Crohn's and colitis and in general gut issues under control so that they can regain the energy and live with confidence the life that they desire.
Yeah, it's such a key thing, isn't it? If you are suffering from that, you definitely lack energy and confidence. And if you are someone out there listening in who has one of those conditions, you know what she's talking about and how that is so important. So tell us a little bit more about your Crohn's. What happened to you? What was that like?
Right. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, in 2005 when I was 18 years old. And I was diagnosed after a series of symptoms, including acute abdominal pain, diarrhea. I could barely eat anything. I was folded into by pain and I couldn't leave the house. So that prompted me to go to the hospital where I did a series of tests, including a Mayer test, which is a stool test to determine if there's blood in your stool, which is characteristic of inflammatory bowel diseases, and then a colonoscopy to determine where the inflammation was in my gastrointestinal tract. So, and I was given medication to take for the rest of my life and a very strict diet, a very restricted diet. So this is how I was diagnosed and the main symptoms that really disrupted my life.
Yeah. And I can imagine, as a young woman, yeah, she got so much life to live. This doesn't sound very fun at all. So is that kind of what led you to do the work that you're doing now? Fill in some of the cracks on that.
Yes. So when I was diagnosed, as I said, I was given such an intense medication and a very restrictive diet, and the medication, I had some side effects from the medication, and that was making me weaker and sicker by the day. And I knew that I wanted to quit at some point. So I was also very afraid that I would actually have to live my whole life with a pain and with the restrictive diet that was given to me, and that I could never enjoy my favorite foods again. So I experimented with different diets. I did some meditation to manage my stress because stress can aggravate the symptoms. And I did some programs to heal my gut, but I didn't see any substantial results. And my symptoms kept coming back. And one day I had one of the worst flares I had ever experienced. And I realized that I was actually looking for an easy solution to be given to me. So, and that my healing would not happen from another diet or another medication, but it really was in my hands. And so I became really serious with understanding how my body works, what it needs, with which foods really soothe my gut and which foods trigger my symptoms. And I understood, I really listened, I really recognized how stress was manifesting in my body. And then I could implement some tools to reduce stress, such as breath work, which for me is one of the best tools to instantly relax, but also meditation and journaling. Um, were very good tools for me to reduce my stress. So when I started listening to my body, that's how I was able to get into remission without medication. And I was fascinated by the results of these efforts, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about what it means to be holistically healthy, mind and body. So I left law school, I left being a lawyer, and I became a health coach. I was certified by the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York. And I have been working as a health coach for the past year. But it's important to say that my main motivator in me becoming my health coach, of course, was my health adventure. But more than that was to really show people that a life without symptoms is possible. I talk to so many people who are in such pain, and they kind of came to grips that, well, this is going to be my life until now and from now on. And I just want them to show that no, there's so many things that we can do to soothe our symptoms. So this is why I became a health coach, to really help guide them through this.
That is so inspiring. And, you know, I usually share at the beginning, and I neglected to, and I think it's important to share that though, is, you know, I always say this at the beginning of our Health Coach TV. So I'm going to share this here in case people are listening in and missing a visual disclaimer. So first of all, I always say, although I am a doctor, I'm not your doctor. So they always want to check in with your own healthcare provider about what's right for you. I wanted to say that. And also, everybody's journey is unique. And what Clio has discovered, it took her a long time to sort it out. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody else has to do that, take years to sort it out. But there was a lot of trial and error involved. But what you did was amazing. And I think just knowing that it's possible to live a life with energy, with confidence, without, you know, being tied to a toilet inside is incredible. That gives people their life back. And to know that there are things that people can do is tremendously valuable. Like, if you don't think it's possible because you don't see anyone else getting in remission from that, you just think it's one of those things that I can't actually enjoy and live my life. And your story is so inspiring, Cleo. It's the power of the human body itself to heal itself is really what we're tapping into. How long have you been in remission? You know, just
Right.
get ballpark.
So it's really interesting what you said. It's true that I have been through so many trials and errors, and it took me a really long time to get to where I am now. So I've been in remission for over a decade, and I barely have any symptoms, but it was a journey. I wasn't guided, so I had to really discover it myself, to really try diets, try foods, then get symptoms and start again and have flares. And but it has been all worth it, because I got to really listen to my body and do this internal work. And it gives this, it's very empowering to really get to see what your body needs to soothe itself. And it actually does make the right decision if we just pay enough attention to listen to what it says.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And we're going to dive into some tips here for the audience, but I can see how being so inspired by your own success, really, like, oh my goodness, there are people out there suffering like I used to, and it doesn't have to be this way. It's kind of like, how can you not go out there and help someone with that? Like, because you know firsthand what it feels like to be that in that situation. And so it's so incredibly amazing what you've done for yourself. And as a in law, that's a stressful career, that's a stressful way of life, the entire journey of that stress. And you talk a lot about stress and gut health. And I actually know of another lawyer turned she into health and because of her journey, who had Crohn's disease. So that stress is a big factor in the conditions that we have. So give our just share, maybe a couple of tips if there's people out there. Maybe they've been diagnosed with Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, or maybe they just think there's something going on with my gut. I don't know what is going on, but I look bloated, or there's just something, it shouldn't be quite like this. Maybe they haven't been diagnosed, but they know there's something going on. What are some tips that you can share with our viewers and listeners that can help them start to point themselves in the direction of a healthier gut?
Sure. I'm happy to share a couple of tips. I can share one food related tip and a lifestyle related tip in line with this holistic mind body approach. So, the first tip would be to know your safe foods and your triggers. Um, Listen to your body. What foods are soothing for your gut, and which foods trigger your symptoms, such as bloating, gas, diarrhea, or constipation. Just focus on the foods that are healing for you. And there are some generally known foods that heal the inflammation and soothe our gut, such as antioxidant foods, which are increase our immune defenses, which we all know we need these during this period. So berries and turmeric. Turmeric is actually an amazing produce because it has some amazing anti-inflammatory properties. And healthy fats are great to reduce inflammation and soothe our gut. So olive oil, avocados, coconut oil is great, great healthy fats, and salmon and um, other fatty fish are also great foods because they contain omega-3, which are anxiety reducing. We're going to talk a little bit more about stress, but this is key because stress can actually trigger our symptoms. So yes, salmon and fatty fish are great to just reduce anxiety. And the second tip is gratitude. So in the pursuit of health, we often live joy out of the equation. And however, like health is not the absence of disease. Joy is not the absence of sadness or pain or suffering. And whatever we may be going through in our lives, there are tiny things in a day that we can be grateful for and can give us this feeling of joy every day. And I actually have an example from one of my clients that I would like to share. So this client was going through some objectively difficult times in a period of his life. And so in our session, I just had this idea to tell him, let's do a gratitude challenge. And I asked him if he wanted to enumerate 10 things he was grateful for. And one of the things he mentioned was his car. But the way he said it was, you could sense that he wasn't really grateful for that. He just said it. So I asked him a couple of questions to dig a little deeper. And he ended up saying that his car was actually one of the few moments he could spend with his kids on the ride to the school. And and he was working so much, so he barely saw them. And he said, well, this car is actually the means to spend some quality time with my children. And so I could see it in his eyes that he had this haha moment where he said, I am actually grateful for my car. So, you know, every time that I talk about gratitude, it can sound a little fluffy and light because we all say, yes, we have to be grateful about things, but we never do it. But I cannot stress enough how important a tool it is to change your mindset. And there is such a connection between the brain and the gut. So if we relax and we are peaceful and we are joyous, then our gut will feel it too. And it's a great tool to soothe our gut.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love everything about that. I am taking notice of the fact as you started talking about joy and gratitude, and there's birds singing in your background. Like right on cue. Honestly, that was just the birds just showed up. We can't make that up. That's fantastic, and I love that container. I know with my own kids, you know, I felt like the car was a great place to have a captive audience. I could have some deep, meaningful relationships with them, and for him to make that connection and to like, you know, kind of crowd out some of the things that are not so great in his life and not working for him, and to really focus on, hey, these moments are, this part is good, and honestly have that gratitude. And I love what you said about the gut brain axis, that connection. I know you dive deep into the science of this as well, but what we translate out and what you translate out to your clients, it's, you know, some practical, simple things, but the effect of it is very powerful. Well, the effect for you has been, you know, life-saving, life-changing. It's incredible. So tell us one of the biggest myths that you see out there when it comes to gut health. What would you say is one of the myths?
Yes. Before I share that, I just wanted to add on before on the gratitude is that now I started implementing it with all my clients, and some of them actually ask for me to do a gratitude challenge. That we do a gratitude challenge at the beginning of our session so that they can really get into the mood. So they started asking me to do that. So it really works. But to come back to your question, so the biggest myth when it comes to gut health is probably that what works for one will work for all. If people followed websites about IBD, intestinal bowel disease, or gut issues, you may see that they advise to eliminate red meat, but who's to say that red meat creates digestive problems in everyone? So we're all different. We have different food sensitivities. We have a different food microbiome, gut microbiome, meaning that we have a different variety of gut bacteria. It changes from person to person. We have different triggers and different symptoms. So for best results, we need to really tailor the treatment according to the person that we have in front of us, to our client's specific symptoms, according to their specific food choices. So it's really helpful for people to have some guidance so that they can really understand what their body needs to discover their body, and what works and what doesn't work for them.
Yeah, that customized approach is so important, as you're saying there, and key, and invaluable to the work that you do. We'll dive into a little bit more about that in a second here. But why is finding that calm? Where are you? Where are we tuning in, connecting with you today, Clio? Where are you currently?
I'm currently in Paris.
Awesome. And where are you normally living? Are you normally living in Paris now, or where do you, because I know that changes about a little bit.
I moved back to Greece. I'm in Paris for a very short amount of time, but I recently moved back to Greece, which is something that I always wanted to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's kind of your, what you call Greece home kind of thing. But I think when we first met, you were living in Paris, and so you're reconnecting there. So I'm envisioning you in Paris right now. So I'm in Canada here, and I'm envisioning you in Paris, and the birds are singing, and I'm picturing what I'm getting the ambiance of what I'm hearing from you. So I just wanted our listeners to be able to tune into that too, especially if they're just listening into this on podcast rather than the video. Why, why is finding your calm so important to your gut?
Right. So this is so important. As we mentioned, there is a gut-brain connection. When we feel stressed, our gut feels it too, especially for people with an intestinal bowel disease such as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. Stress and anxiety can lead to flares. So it's really important to learn to manage our stress efficiently. But when we say that, the biggest advice we get is, okay, chill, relax. But when we are dealing with a life situation that is very stressful, it's hard to know where to start. So let's just say that it can be very empowering to be in control of your health, if you start to pay more attention of what your body is trying to tell you. And we can start by paying attention on how we're breathing during the day. So we can just, most people, they breathe dysfunctionally. So are you breathing through your mouth, or are you breathing through your nose? So most people breathe through the mouth. But we should all be breathing through our mouth, our nose, because we breathe diaphragmatically, which is deeper, more relaxing breaths. So when we open our mouth, when we breathe through our mouth, like me, now that I'm talking, I have a more shallow breath, and I'm actually triggering my sympathetic nervous system, which signals to my body this fight or flight response. So I'm actually creating stress in my body by this shallow breathing. And the first thing that we need to do whenever we catch ourselves breathing through the mouth is, first of all, to switch to breathing through our nose. And we just need to lengthen the breath and slow down our breathing, which signals to the body that we are safe and everything is under control. And stress manifests in various ways, but whatever the way it manifests, it's important to see how it manifests in your body. And in order to do that, it's important to recognize certain signs that stress is in your body, such as, for example, an increased heart rate, some sensitive bowel like bloating or gas, sweating, our face becomes red. And whenever we see that, we can say, oh, my body's trying to tell me that I'm stressed. So we can just slow down and breathe and breathe more mindfully through our mouth. And just to close this, because I'm so passionate about this, it all depends where we are in our life, but the more we train ourselves to listen to our body and to um, recognize how stress manifests in our body, then the quicker we can get ourselves out of stress the next time.
I love that. And, it's a vicious cycle. People are stressed about their Crohn's, their colitis, and then the stress aggravates it, and then it becomes this vicious cycle. And they can't necessarily like snap their fingers and it's gone. That's not how it works. And they can't just have their snap their fingers and have their boss or whatever situation that they're in go away. So they still are immersed in stress, but looking at how your body's responding to stress and having a few key things that you can do in the moment, you can switch and focus on your breathing, even in midst and especially amid something stressful, that can totally change that physiology. I love that, Clio. That's really, again, simple but powerful. Hope you guys are grabbing a pen here and writing some notes down, because this is some good stuff. So tell us a little bit about how you work with your clients. What is it that you do? How does that work?
Sure. So my clients have either Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, a diagnosed condition, but also just gut issues in general without it being a diagnosed condition. And they all want to soothe their symptoms so that they can reclaim their life, live with energy and confidence again. So what I do is I take them step by step through a program that takes them from the pain and the fatigue that they feel to enjoying, regaining their energy and enjoying their foods without fear of flares again. So I work really closely with them, and mainly digitally, which is easy for anyone to connect wherever they are. And there's a lot of accountability, there's a lot of support, and but the most important thing is that we have results.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love the virtual world now. It just makes you so much more accessible to, a global following, which is fantastic, and allows us to do what we do here, get your message out to people. I am grateful for that ability to do Zooms and podcasts and virtual aspects. It's fantastic. Expands the reach, and people can learn so much more and still connect. There is that opportunity too. What are some of the benefits, spin-off benefits that you've seen as you work with your clients in improving their gut health? What else have you noticed?
So it's funny. They come. So when we start working together, they come with their own fears and doubts. Oh, it's not going to work for me. I don't know anybody who soothed their symptoms. And halfway through working together, they have an increased confidence because they see how much they have achieved in a short amount of time. And they learn to listen to their body and to determine and recognize which foods help soothe their gut and which are triggers. So they can make really healthy choices for them, and they trust their body to make the best decision for them. So they have managed to reintroduce into their diet some foods that they never thought they could enjoy again. So that is really great. And I have so many examples that I could share with my clients, but the last one was a client. So she came to me, and she was very anxious with her restrictive diet. She was afraid that she would always have to stay on that diet and she could never enjoy her foods again. And that really resonated with me because I shared this fear after my diagnosis as well. So I could really be compassionate with her. So, and she had a couple of other issues. She had asthma, she has sleep apnea, IBS, so a lot of issues. And we looked at her most common nutrient, because this is most often than not her most her most common irritant. So we eliminated that for a while, and it empowered her to take her health into her own hands, because she really understood, oh, that's not a good food for me, that's a good food for me. So fast forward 2 months, she's able to eat most of the foods that she enjoyed, without having to fear when she's going out, where's the nearest bathroom. So that's really amazing.
Like that food freedom, like, and to know, and to not feel like restricted, but also to not harm yourself in the process. And you're a foodie, you love food. I mean, with, coming from Greece, of course you're gonna love food. So that's going to factor in there. And so yeah, I love that. That's huge. That's huge. This has been an absolute a pleasure and a gift to be able to chat with you, Clio, and have you share some insight into some things that have worked with people. And some of these things sound simple, but they're very customized as well. That's, I guess, the other thing, but very powerful. And to be able to get on the other side of gut health, to get your energy back, to actually get to live your life, have those relationships, do the work that you want to do, because you're not always held hostage by this diagnosis, is huge. It's immense. So if people are looking to connect with you, maybe they have questions, maybe they're like, hey, this thing's been bothering me, maybe she could help me out here, maybe she could answer a question that I have, or that's all fine for you, but you don't know my situation, and they want to share their situation. How can people connect with you, Clio?
Sure. They can connect through my website, www.magnificlifewithcrohns.com. And there they can book a free call with me, so that they can ask me any questions that they have about their symptoms. That's also why I share my symptoms, so that people can relate. Oh, I have that. So they can ask me any questions, and we can discuss about their own situation and their next best steps.
Awesome. I think you also have a free starter kit for people.
I do. That's a great point. I do. So they will find in my website a free starter kit with my best tips about how to heal our Crohn's naturally, that have helped me get into remission.
Awesome. So definitely, thanks for tuning in for this episode, guys. And so head on over to, it's Magnifique Life with Crohn's.com. So www.magnifique, MAGNIFIQUE, life with Crohn's, that's CROHNS.com, Magnifique Life with Crohn's.com. And you'll be able to connect with Clio Stoidis. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that you were able to take this time and be with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It has been really, really interesting, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. That's it for another episode of Health Coach TV. We'll see you next time. Head on over to healthcoach-tv.com. Be good for you.